Okay, let's try that again. And welcome to another exciting episode of Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and today I have a very special guest that's joining us, and I am super excited to have her on the show. I have been so looking forward to this. And so, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my amazing guest and let her share her story. I give you the one, the only mystic oracle, intuitive extraordinaire, Michelle Sinclair.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me. This is awesome. Um,
Yes,
you
thank
want
you
me to
for
give you
coming on.
a little overview of who I am, what I do?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Michelle Sinclair, as you mentioned, very spiritually inclined ever since I was a little kid. I have been through many, many things in my life, and the most horrific thing that I ever went through led to this beautiful enlightenment that came through. And so from that moment forward, everything just really changed for me. And I became, this clear, empty vessel so I can truly help people. I, I can see things in people that they can't necessarily see in themselves, or maybe that they see in themselves, but, the divine needs to address within them. And I help people to find their divinity within themselves, remember who they are, and clear out all the things within them that's making them feel awful and terrible and hating their lives, and bring in all the good things that makes them feel wonderful and uplifted and makes them love their lives.
Well, thank you for doing that. And you bring up something that I find is something very interesting in our world that I notice, but I don't think a lot of people pay attention to. And that is, according to religion, we all were born the children of God. We all were divine.
Yep.
And then somewhere around the Council of Nicaea, it becomes we are second. We are no longer divine. And I take the standpoint of, hey, I never said I was not a divine being and gave up my divine birthright. And so I find it so interesting that people are okay giving it up.
hmm they've
And
been told to,
yeah,
and a lot of us, what we were told when we were little kids, we just took it in, we believed it, we didn't really question it. Sometimes, depending on the religion you came from, because you were not allowed to question it. I know that was for me, it was like, ooh, don't look into these things, it'll lead you astray. And it just, keeps you trapped in these things. I got to tell you, because what you said there just reminded me of this. I had an iboga experience, an ibogaine experience last summer, and this is a very powerful spiritual plant medicine. And within the first 2 minutes of swallowing the pills that there's no way that they even cracked open in my stomach yet. I got the download that, and I was shown the very beginning, and I was shown this like explosion. And it was like, you are made of only that. And it was just light and it was love. And it was like, you could be made of nothing other than that, because that's literally the substance that everything that is here is made of. And it was like, right, we're all made of this. That's all we are. But we forget. We forget. It's all part of the game. But we systematically forget so we can expand and grow even more.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing too that I find interesting, is we're living in a world where, they call it the Great Awakening. And the terms that I'm hearing most commonly, referenced either, for good or for, quote, bad purposes is divine masculine, divine feminine. And the reason I say, for good and bad is like, everyone's like, oh, we got to raise up the divine feminine and restore it. But at the same time, I hear, oh, the divine masculine is bad. And, we need to, lessen the masculine and get more of the feminine. And I'm like, where's the balance?
Yes,
Why are
has to
we
be.
sacrificing one for the other? And I also noted with another guest that we will say divine feminine and I say divine masculine, but the actual term is sacred masculine or
Mm,
masculinity. And I'm like, why? Well, why can't you use the word divine? Well,
yeah,
and they're like, oh no, it's sacred. I'm like, well, that's what divine is. Divine is sacred. And so I find it funny how the verbiage like starts
yeah.
telling the story and everything, but
Yeah, it's all words to keep us separated from each other and thinking that we're not really agreeing when we are really agreeing. Words are just such tricky things. And we could all have the same meaning behind something, but somebody else's, this word means something to them in a certain way. But I do feel like there has been a very um roller coaster of imbalance between the masculine and the feminine, and that it is coming now into more coherence. And so the whole feminist movement that was so extreme was kind of making up for the masculine movement that was so extreme, and now everybody's kind of taking a chill pill and being like, okay, yeah, let's just like, what does this look like when it's actually healthy? Because even in interpersonal relationships, if you're the masculine and you're the feminine, but you're not playing your proper role, your partner has to make up for that in a way. And so then they start playing the other role. And then what happens? We start disrespecting each other because we intuitively know I'm actually supposed to be doing this, but I'm not. So then we're mad at ourselves and we're mad at our partner because they're doing this and they shouldn't be doing it. And it's because there is a way that it's supposed to flow and be beautifully and so cohesive, but the world has distorted this because we're on a spiritual battlefield. So of course that's what it's going to do.
that's true. And intuitive side, I remembered growing up, and I don't know if it was just the way I took it or if other people have experienced this as well, but I was always grew up hearing women have intuition, men don't.
Mm,
And I was like, well, what do the guys have? They have their gut. They do everything from the gut. Women, they use their intuition. And I was like, okay, so I thought for the longest time these are two separate things, and then realized it's the same thing
it's
again,
same
using
thing.
different verbiage.
Yeah, same thing.
But also, though, I have in my many years on this planet, witnessed, many interactions between people. And the one thing that I find that is the most comical to me is I will hear women all the time saying, there's all these programs for guys. There's all these programs about understanding men and doing this with men, but there's nothing really to, for women to, go and, be able to share what they need to share. And I was like, really? And I go,
Mhm.
so, and I said, and I go, well, let's look at, conversation between male and females. Males, we go up and we're like, hey, how's it going? Good. Oh, yeah, that's not going so hot yet. No. Okay, well, if you need anything, cool, cool, we're done.
Mhm.
We addressed everything. And it's like, and I look at the women going, no, you didn't. It's like, yeah, actually, we did. I know he's okay. I know if he needs help, he's going to ask. And
Mhm.
he's doing all right on his own right now. He's coping. We're good to go.
Mhm.
What more do I need to know? And she's like, and then I'll watch two women going, and they're like, well, this, seems to be, he's not listening to this. And then they'll be like, well, did you talk about it this way? Well, yeah, and we kind of got to it. But I really wish he would have listened, in the beginning to this. And it's like, I notice it's a round robin. It's
Mhm.
you get
Mhm.
the solution, but then you go back to the beginning. You get the
Mhm.
solution again, go back to the beginning. And then you're
Yeah.
like, 5 minutes later, like, okay, we're done. We worked it out. I'm like, yeah, you worked it out like 7 times from what I could see
But,
with us.
some depends on the person. Some people need so much, reassurance. There's so many layers that they go into it, and some people are just stuck in loops and they don't even know it. They're just
Yeah,
wasting their time and energy. But we're
but yeah,
definitely very different creatures. Men and women are extremely extreme. Like we're not even the same. We're not the same thing. That's why we have different jobs, different roles, different things, and we can do it all. Of course, we can. But there's certain things that are our sweet spots, and they're different for men and
well,
women.
yeah, and then I was like, I had a guest on that was doing all these workshop for the divine feminine and helping women to share this, and I said, I hear a lot of times too women saying, you don't understand me, you don't listen to me, and I go, now let's look at this. Where can a guy go to in this world to communicate, learn to communicate, and learn how, to communicate with a woman?
Mhm.
None that I know of.
Well, you know what we've got going on
It,
tonight? I mean, I'm in Florida. We're going to a conscious connections event, and that's literally what it is to somebody speaks, they're asked a question, they speak, and then you translate what you believe that you heard them say, and it goes back and forth, and it's literally teaching you how to communicate. It's like, so they do exist. They exist in Florida anyways.
well, no, that's awesome that you're doing that because I would, because we were laughing about, yeah, you got that women will get mad at men for not understanding them, but then there's nowhere for us to go to
Gain
understand. It's not like
gain understanding. Yes.
we can't
Mhm.
go on the internet and go, oh, hey, here's a course. Like,
Yeah.
yes, they're coming around now, but I'm talking in the past. It's like, yeah, we muddled through,
Mhm.
and God help us that we survived this long.
Yeah. It's work though. The planet's still here. There's billions of us. Something is a success.
Yeah,
Yeah. The women aren't too mad about it or something would have happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, talking about like the intuition and tapping into that, how how did you come about, and your what was your like aha moment and the impact of that moment
Mm.
where you sat down and looked at, your life and the world around you and go, we need intuitive transmissions. We need
Hmm.
to work on this.
Well, I've been a hypnotherapist since 2015. And so when I'd be working with, my clients, I'm putting them into state, but I'm also doing the same for myself. Because when you do this, you're opening yourself up, you're putting yourself in their energy field. And so very often I would have, people be like, "Are you reading my mind? Like, how did you know I was going to say that?" But it's because the spirit was telling me what needed to be said. Like I'm just fully in the energy um with the person. And so I, would kind of practice along these lines. I had taken a course with this one lady one time that made me realize like, oh, I got a gift. Like if I just tune into something, I'm going to get pictures and images. I'm going to get a story. Something's going to come out. So, was doing my hypnotherapy. I would get things for people in sessions. And then I would walk to work and I'd be like, okay, this person's coming. What do they need? And I would be told everything that they need before I even met them. They would show up. I'm not telling them any of this. I'm just checking the things off the list. Okay, good, cool. They're done. Their results are absolutely amazing as per usual because the divine would tell me. So I did this, for years and years and years. Then I have this enlightenment come through. And so then at this moment, like the only way that something like this can happen is when you are completely void of every and anything within your own self that's not love. Like it's just gone, it's empty. And so at that point when that happened, I then was gifted extra because now I don't know if the divine knows I can just be fully trusted, that I could then see energy in people. And then I could read, if I tuned in and wanted to, I could read and I could tune in and I could check that energy and what it meant and all the things about the person. So this is purely a gift, a spiritual gift that was given. Like I had some of it to begin with, but was like totally amplified up a notch of like, we trust you. Plus, we know all the information you're getting through is not filtering through your own stuff because it's not in there anymore. So it really is a clean channel. So there is a difference between, going to an intuitive who's done the work on themselves and one who hasn't, because it's going to be flavored with whatever they've got going on inside of them. You can't not have that come through those filters. So I would say for people who are even on the intuitive path and maybe you're good at it, maybe it's really coming along, that's the work, is the inner work, the personal work, getting rid of any anger, resentment, depression, any fear-based anything that is within you because it is damaging the words, the results, the information that comes out on the other side of it because it's going through your filter that is not made of pure light. And so when it is made of pure light, then the information's 100% accurate and it's going to be so helpful. Everything's intent too, though, right? So, when we have a really good intent of whatever message you want to give me for this person or these people or whoever this is going to be just beautiful and loving and pure and exactly what they need to hear. It's going to be that. You're going to get exactly what you need.
And I appreciate you saying that its intent is the key factor because I've noticed, you know, through experiences and just, reading and hearing other people's stories that they'll say, and all their actions will go into one result, but then another result happens and they feel like, what happened? Where, what did I go wrong? And then not realizing their intention was not in alignment with where they were going.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, the intention can override everything. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the key things that I think the world needs to kind of be more aware of now is, like I can say, hey, I do energy work to help people. Well, that's just a statement. But if my intention behind it is to do, to say, okay, we're going to start doing energy work to help people, it's going to go out further. It's going to go
Yeah.
out stronger, and people are going to start responding. And if in
Mhm.
my mind, my intention is, yeah, I just said that, but I'm afraid, what if this happens? What if that happens? Or, oh, am I really going to be able to do this? And all these doubts and everything starts coming in, your intention weakens and nobody will really respond. And you're like, I don't understand. I put it out there.
Yes. It's the intention is the seed of consciousness. When we think about a seed, what is a seed? All it is a tiny little packet of information of knowing. It knows what it is. So when you plant it and it's an oak tree, it doesn't go in there and be like, oh, maybe I'm a carrot. I'm not too sure. It knows what it is and it knows it so well that it is only that. Where does the foliage come from? Where does all the stuff come from this tiny little seed? It's not even possible. Like this in itself is a miracle of creation that we rarely don't even ever consider or even think about. But that's what it is a tiny packet of information. And because it knows itself so well and it has no doubt within it that it's a mighty oak tree, that's what it becomes. And when Christ was teaching, this is what he was telling us. He's like, you reap as you sow. If you believe that, that's what you get. And so often, we plant these seeds of like, oh, I want this, but we don't understand that the doubt that we have within us that goes along with that package of information carries a frequency that's going to give us back exactly what we put out. So we're going to get the thing, but we're going to get it with the doubt that we interlaced with it when we planted the seed. Which is why when people heal or when they do these miraculous things, they speak it and it happens and they have not 1 ounce, not one energetic molecule of doubt within them. And so they made the perfect seed and it plants and then they get the result. Like when Christ was healing people, if he was like, okay, you can walk, like, I mean, I hope that worked. I really hope that worked. It wouldn't have worked. But because he knew the love so well, he didn't have any doubts because that love is the element that removes any remaining doubt that's within the body, right? You'll know, let's say a Christian, oh, I believe God heals people. Oh, I know this. I've seen these miracles. It's like you do believe it, but you don't fully believe 100% of it because otherwise it would be happening for you. You don't fully believe 100% of it because of this. And it's like people need examples. They need to be like, well, I need to experience that first, then I'll know for sure. And it's like, no, what you need to know is the love. And the way that you get to know the love is by removing everything that's not the love. And then you know it so well that you're like, oh, I was screwing myself this whole time and I didn't even know it because I
Right.
believed it, but I didn't really, really believe it. And when you do, it changes everything.
I agree. And, you know, one of the things that I think that kind of is in our favor, but not in our favor at the same time, is our own concept of language. We
Mhm.
hear certain words and they have connotation that's been given to us. Like if, somebody was to say to me fear, how do you define fear? Well, I really couldn't define it because the only experience of fear I know is through what I was taught. That's what it is. So I don't know that I really have truly experienced fear.
Mhm.
Or, vice versa, happiness. It's like, when we asked how to define certain feelings or certain aspects of ourselves, we struggle because the image that we have is images that have been ingrained into us. And so we're like, oh, well, this is looks like that, so that must be that, and so I'm gonna call it that, and maybe it's not. And
Yeah.
I
That,
think that's just a
that
spot too where, how do we overcome the unknowing what we know that we don't know?
right. Because when this love poured through, so I had been on several days, this enlightenment, all this information, downloads had come, but when the love came through that swept away the rest of the doubt that I had had, what I realized in that moment was that the reason why love is such a tricky thing is because we've only had humans that have given us these examples, and no human in this whole planet displays perfect love. But the divine actually does. Like that's all that it actually is. And so we only have that to compare it to. So even when we use the word love or when we don't understand it. We don't fully understand. We can only understand it to the level that we can understand it, which is to only to the examples that we've already experienced. And I don't know about you, but I know the amount of people that I've met that have definitely 100% not experienced what love actually is would be almost every person I've ever met. Every person. I mean, and that included me until I had this profound experience that had happened. And that's what we're based, this infallible love when it's not, we and we define things as good or bad and right or wrong. but they're not. It's our thinking that makes it so. You know, there was this man. This is kind of a good example of, we take something that's happened and we turn it into something terrible, even though maybe it was a wonderful blessing in disguise. So this man, he's really poor growing up, so poor that his parents buy him encyclopedias, or an encyclopedia for his birthday, just one. So we got the letter A. So he's, like, he didn't get a whole set. He got the one book. He's a kid. Like, this is not exciting. So he's, pretty pissed about this for years, like literally his whole life. Then he comes to realize, when I can't remember if he was like in his 50s or 60s, but he realized he had gotten the letter A. And what he used to spend all of his time with was, because he didn't have many things, obviously, was he would look at the art in this book, and he would just look at all the pages. And well, what did he end up doing with his life? Well, he became an artist. And it was like, ding, I didn't realize the thing I was so resentful and pissed about my parents for and thought this is the worst thing in the whole entire world was the thing that led to the thing that he was supposed to be here doing. And I've seen it so many times that, this dentist, he does reconstructive surgery, makes people beautiful teeth. What got you into this? Oh, I was in this horrific car accident, my face was destroyed. Of course. Now, at the time, that would have been the worst thing that's ever happened to him, and this or that. But it's like, no, it was all part of the divine plan. And when we know this, and we can know it when we're in that, then we can let go of the suffering that's in it, of like, yeah, this hurts. I don't know what the plan is, but I know that something real good is going to come. And then rather than we're a victim and this is the worst thing ever and sitting in that low vibe, feeling, we can lift ourselves up and we can start reaping as we sow, as we always do in this second, reaping something higher vibe than I'm a victim and you want to be a victim again, keep putting it out there. You're going to keep getting it back. It's like we have choices. But if we don't even know that literally everything is working for us at every moment, or we don't believe that, we're going to be suffering. And it will be apparent in our life through more suffering. But it's a choice. It's always a choice.
All right, and another example of that is talking about love is I've been accused a few times of misusing the word love, and I'm like, I'm not misusing it. You're just misinterpreting how I'm using it, because to me, when I have friends that I'm really close to, I will say I love those friends, and
Yeah.
there's a love there.
Yep.
With someone, that's another love. Family,
Mhm.
that's a love, and so there's different variations of the love. But we just, in language, we'll just say, yes, I love so and so.
Yeah.
Yes, I love, this, or I love that. And so it's like, I kind of look, in some situations where it's like, yeah, I can see why people, will falsely accuse people of stuff, because they're sitting there saying, wait a minute, you're only supposed to love me, but you're loving this person who's not family. You're loving this person. You're loving this animal. What,
Mhm.
what's wrong with me? Why am I not enough? And it's like, nobody ever said you weren't enough. It's different love going to different people,
Yes.
but it gets lost in the translation. And I somewhat wonder, is it on the person who is sharing the love that he's not communicating it properly, or she's not communicating it properly? Or is
It
it on the receiver who is
Mhm.
watching it, and because they aren't at that level, they're not
Mhm.
going to be able to comprehend, and so that's why it's off.
Yes, yes, yes. It's everybody filters everything through their own wounds. So let's say that you're like, "Oh, I love you," and then all of a sudden you're getting this feedback or this fear or this jealousy. Well, what is it really? The person that you're saying, you love your masculine friend over here, and now your female friend is feeling however. Well, she's got fear within her that, okay, well, he loves that. That means there's not enough for me. Is she just filtering it through all the wounds that she's got going on? I mean, unless of course you're maliciously and, dabbling this in front of people's faces. Oh, I
Mm.
love, but obviously that's not what you're doing. But people filter it through their own wounds. I've seen this so many times. It's like, partners accusing the other partner of something or whatever, and it's a childhood wound, or it's something from a trigger from the past. It has nothing to do with what's currently going on. This is where I think this balance needs to come in of like true communication with partners, too. People, first of all, not interrupting, giving your partner enough time to get out what it is that they need to say, and then almost sitting there with a bit of silent time to like, I'm not only thinking about how I'm going to respond, I'm going to put myself in my partner's shoes. Okay. So they don't like me saying I love other people. So they must be feeling pretty insecure right now. Maybe you just ask your partner like, I really love you. What do you need from me? Because just because I love my friends too, that does not diminish the love that I have for you at all. I mean, it just adds to it. What do I need from you? Because if somebody's throwing shade at you or something, they need something. They're feeling like, oh, you used to give me this and now I'm not getting it from you. Where am I going to get my supply? There's something that's missing. So we just can ask, what do you feel like's missing? Do you need a hug right now? I love you. I don't know. What do you need?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because when I was in my 20s and 30s, I would hear all the time people connect because we're frequencies and you're missing a frequency. This person is operating at that frequency.
Yep,
So you will connect with them and get that frequency. But then when you have that frequency, you now are at choice to stay with that frequency or
yep,
go, oh, wait, now I'm missing this frequency. Well, you don't have it. I got to go find someone who does. And so that's why they were explaining how relationships can be like, the quote, passionate fire, and then it sizzles out to nothing. It's like, what
yeah.
happened? And it's
Well,
like,
mhm.
nothing really bad happened. It's just the frequencies changed. And it's like, okay, I can get that. But I
So
feel like part of me, although, wants to say, is that just an excuse to flee something and go look for something else? Or,
Well, think about this. I mean, you're here to be happy. So you don't need to make an excuse to stay in a place where you're not happy. You know what I mean? So if that just happens to be the case, it's not like, oh, I need to feel bad about this, that we're not a match anymore. No, I mean, if you're not, the divine is only love. So if you need to release this person, well, that person's got better coming for them too. It's not just you. We both release so that we can, both have something that's better. So this is neat. So the other day, I am very about these heart opening medicines and all these beautiful sacred medicines. So with my ex partner, I we'd been having a ceremony. In the middle of the ceremony, he releases something like extreme, evil, so to speak, but just low vibe, something. He releases it, and the second that he released it, I felt it release in me and was like, oh, like I love you so much more right now. So what I understood in this was that when we are with our divine partners, if they have anything within them, like let's say that this was, some fear-based something, which is what it was, which I would say was some low entity, we will play that out for them. So like my one friend, she said the other day, think of like a demon and that it's demonstrating. Let me demonstrate for you what is still within you that needs to be cleared out. So if your partner has like some fear that you're going to leave them, oh, you're absolutely going to play that fear out for them because you're in divine partnership here. This is what we're doing. This is why we're here. This is only spiritual. The reason why we're here is spiritual. So we're going to play that out for them. So it's not like you've done anything. They have this within them and you're showing them that they have it within them. So then when it's gone, now you're not playing out the same stories anymore. This is why couples who grow together can stay together. They're growing through these process, whereas some they're not. One partner might want to grow. This one doesn't. Okay, so they're growing, they're growing. Now this one finally decides, oh, that actually looks pretty good. I think I'm going to do that. But they're always still here. And so then eventually you grow apart. So like in my opinion, the most important number one thing that you could do for a relationship, if you're like, I want to lock this in, I want you forever, is the deal that we are going to grow together, like grow together. No choice. Let's do all the things that we can possibly do, because otherwise one's going to take off in a different direction than the other because they have to.
Yeah, and I will say from personal experience, never ever say to a woman when she is in the middle of arguing something, going, I'm so glad I can mirror this for you. Because, oh my lord, that opens up a whole lot of.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you think Shadow by itself is rough on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, you open a can that possibly exposes Shadow and saying, you know you're in your shadow work right now, right? Even saying that can really, you're gonna be like, yeah, you're gonna be lucky if you're in the doghouse.
Yeah, if you make it out alive. Yeah, it just really depends on, the situation. Sometimes we need to wait to say the things. But if you have a very open communication with your partner, like if that was the case with me and I'm displaying something like that and my partner calls me out on it, there's no arguing. Like I'm gonna, oh wow, no, that is, I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna deal with it if that's really what's happening, just depends on the level where you're at with your
Yeah.
partner and the work that's been done previous, because you try to correct somebody who hasn't done any work, they're going to take it personal, they're going to take it as an attack, they're probably going to attack you back, you're going to get absolutely nowhere. you know you got
Yeah.
to be a frequency match with your partner for sure on all levels.
And some of that I wonder, because we're talking about doing work and not doing work. And everybody, has their own viewpoint of what doing work looks like. And in reality, everyone's doing the work that they need to do the way they're doing it is in divine right order.
Hmm.
But then there are moments, though, like you're saying, where the observations are different, the communication levels are different.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily want to say that that's because they've done more work than other people. I wonder if it's, and I'm thinking you're the right person to ask this because of one of the topics that was we were going to talk about, and that's accessing the mystical realm
Hmm.
and operating there, and in which case you see things differently than people who aren't in the mystical realm.
Yeah.
And so, is that what's going on when it's like you can sit there and go, wow, you're really into your shadow work, and I'm really glad, you're getting this out and doing this. And the other person's like, yes, thank you for noticing. Is
Hmm.
that because there could be, in the mystical realm, so to speak, versus the earthly realm where everyone's operating surface level?
Yeah, that really could be. I mean, when you zoom back and you get the big picture of what's really happening, things that might normally bother you don't bother you at all. I know that even, doing hypnosis sessions with people or having, plant medicine journeys with people or things like that, they come back and they're laughing about these things that, were so upsetting before or seemed like such a big deal or, whatever. And you come back and you're like, none of that matters. Like, why did I think that was such a big deal? And it is because you've had the zoomed out view of like, right. It's just about love. It's about unity. We're here to grow. We're here to expand. So all these things, aren't a big deal. Um, I think everyone's exactly where they're supposed to be at. And we didn't all come here for the same reason this time. Like we haven't every other billion times that we've shown up here on Earth, like we came here to play the role that we came here to play.
Right.
And some of us came here perhaps to volunteer as the hey, remember, let's not do this anymore. That they're staying here as an example of what happens when you don't do the work, that and to show you how far you've come. That in itself, what a beautiful gift that is that that person is giving us. So like everybody's roles that they're playing are proper. They're not doing it wrong. But if someone's living their life and they're unhappy, then they need to look at something. And the number one thing that they could remember is that you reap as you sow. And this is through thought, through word, through action. Every low thought that you have of yourself, if you were to just think a bad thought about yourself, how does that fall in your body? What does that feel like? That's low vibe. Like, and it doesn't feel good. It's not comfortable. There's nothing that's truthful about it. Whereas when you think thoughts that are truthful, like loving, wonderful thoughts. So they feel high vibe, you feel better, you're in an actual different frequency. And so then people that are in that same resonance are going to come in. Whereas the people who are in the same resonance as this are also going to come in. So you get to choose which one you want. And there's also the instant gratification, right? This takes a hot minute, because you've been planting seeds for the last 40 years of this vibe, and then you changed your mind today and you expect to see the harvest tomorrow. That's not how seeds work. It takes a bit of time. We got to plant them, we got to water them, we got to give them the nutrients, and they will sprout. There's no doubt that they will, but it takes a minute, and you got to stay in that high vibe while the harvest is coming to fruition.
And I like how you pointed out, viewing, doing the work and seeing the progress made. Because I recently was talking with a friend about shadow work and how it's part of the hero's journey. And I mentioned to him, I said, and the beautiful thing about shadow work is we think, we have to do this work on ourselves and it's never ending. But I said, that's because that's the viewpoint you have of it. What if you look at it by going and saying, same scenario, but instead saying, hey, look, I, normally got triggered by this event, so to speak, in, let's say, 5 minutes. I would have been triggered, emotional, retaliating, but now it's been 2 days
Yeah, it's sweet.
and I haven't been triggered. It's like, look at the growth that you've had.
Yeah.
And yes, the universe is sneaky as all get out because you'll work on something and then a totally random scenario comes up and you're like, I guess I'm not done working on this thing because here it's coming over here. And I'm like, yes, it will sneak it in through what we call sideways means. And
Mhm. It's
so if it's
mastery.
like, say, for example, relationship work, you think, okay, I have done like 6 years of, total work on shadow relationship to having someone equal to me doing this or this. And then you're talking with your friends and your friend, says something and you're like, "Oh, that kind of triggered me." And you're like, "Well, but I'm not dating this person, so why did I get triggered?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, back
Mhm.
you're not done with that
Yeah.
relationship with the person. They're showing you, nope, you still got a little bit more."
I love the triggers, and this gives you a chance for mastery because, we can have these big, profound experiences. Oh, my life is so different, but then you got to live it real life too. And you could think, like, for example, for myself, my ex-husband, all the things that happened with him, it was so terrible. But then I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm over it. I can heal people. It's all about love. But then you go and you get yourself into another relationship and you're like, okay, so there's like several triggers here that clearly I didn't know were still present because they just weren't in my life. And so what a gift that is, right? It can come in, we can look at it. Is this legit? Is this because this was old? What do I need to do about this? But it never ends. I have a good friend, he's 87, just a wonderful man. And you'd think he's in his 30s. And he said something the other day about, his daughters, mentioned to him that he interrupts and that they don't like that, it's not very good. And so his one friend said to him, "Oh, you kind of interrupt, and when you do that, you're not in your heart space anymore. I don't feel received by you." So he's like, "So now I'm working on listening better." And I'm like, "Man, you're 87. The work never stops, and what a beautiful thing that it is that it never stops." And like we always are just trying to improve. And why
Yeah.
would why would we want to quit that? Because then what are we gonna do? We already did it. No, that's boring. We gotta keep doing the things, whatever they have
Yeah.
to do.
And it's funny you say that because in March I did a presentation on the power and mythos of the hero's journey, and the main part of it was is like the middle of the hero's journey is the shadow work. So you're gonna do the shadow work irregardless. So you might as well just embrace it and just, as we say in the metaphysics, ride the wave and just go with the flow. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's no point in fighting it. Because as much as you will, you're gonna end up doing it anyway. So just make your life easier.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I made though in the presentation was at one point I said, you can be an elderly person and you can still have a hero's journey. You can be a little kid and have a hero's journey. You can be a young adult or an adult and have a hero's journey. You can be dead and have a hero's journey. And they're like, wait, what? And I was like, yes, because by definition of what the hero's journey is, your transition from form here to your next form is a hero's journey. In
Mm-hmm.
which case, when you hit that point, wherever you are, you're going to be on a hero's journey,
Yeah.
learning how to operate there. So, therefore, the hero's journeys never end.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the shadow work is ever constant with it. And so they're intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at it that way, I was like, I came up with the sentence of, I don't know about you, but I kind of get excited now when it's like a dark night of the soul or shadow
Yeah.
work time, because I'm like, ooh, what's the change going to be on the other side? What's
Yeah.
it going to look like? And how's it going to
100%.
work?
I know. Every time I remember leaving, I left Canada, came down, and I was still at that point, having to deal with my ex. This is years ago. But he would, intentionally try to do things to really get me. And I caught on to the pattern of when this would happen. And it was like I would have this terrible day that I would forgive it, I would let it go. And by the next day, oh, I was so much more elevated than I ever had been in my life, which made me like, okay, I'm pumped up. If something extreme or something totally crazy happens, thank you. Like, what's on the other side of this? And then keeping that attitude, it makes the suffering non-existent or last maybe like a day or two rather than months or who knows how long. It changes everything.
Yeah.
Makes life so much more better, more beautiful.
And you talk about too awakening, I'm talking about topics here for a second. So people that are listening to this or watching this, they are coming in. You didn't miss something with this statement, but you had mentioned about awakening to the living truth of the soul.
Hmm.
I'm kind of curious what your definition to that is and how you came about that definition. And
Okay.
I like to add for, people's benefit, I've been asked, for myself in through experiences what impact it had on you, because we don't share that a lot. A lot of times we'll just share this is what led up to it, but we never share what the after effect was. And so I'm curious
Mhm.
if you can share that about that
Yes.
part of your journey.
So the living truth of the soul is like I had shared before, that it's all birthed out of love, which is why, when you come here and let's say that your parents weren't great, maybe they were neglectful, maybe they were abusive, maybe whatever. The reason why we suffer so much is because our soul knows. this ain't the way, man. And this is not where we came from. We came from this place of pure love, and now we're here. And so this is why maybe we're angry about it. Maybe we have all these feelings about how we grew up as a kid because we knew that was not the way. But along with that, so the love, you wouldn't expect the divine to just let go of the laws of electromagnetism because they are a universal law. And so it is the laws of universal, or it is the electromagnetic laws of the universe. Jesus called it reaping and sowing. Many religions just call it karma, that what you put out, you get back. But your thoughts are electric, they carry electrical impulses. We know this. This is based on science. And we know about electromagnetism, that when a frequency gets sent out, it goes out, it might disappear for a moment or two, or it might disappear for a long time, but it will return in the exact frequency that it was sent out. So if you can combine those two things of knowing that we're only here for love, and that everything, whether it's just a thought about yourself, about someone else, about your environment, about anything, when it goes out, it's going to be returned back to sender. That's really all you need to know. Is if we just send out loving thoughts, like I said, it'll take a little hot minute for you to really fully see the return on it, depending on the situation. But when you send that out, you're going to see your life improve. The places where you used to criticize and judge and condemn other people, the environment, or yourself, you don't do that anymore. And so then there's what's the new, what's the other energy that we're going to put into here. So for myself, I studied the Christ letters, so I knew about, electromagnetism. I knew about all the things, you spiritually and universally. I knew about Jesus's true teachings, about his early life, what was really happening. And so when this enlightenment came through, you can read a book, you can know the stuff, but there's a difference between knowing the stuff. And what that allowed me was to know the stuff. It's now living in my body. I now get to live this as my life. And what happened for me, I'll give you an example. When I realized we are living every second, every moment, choosing whether to indulge in hellish frequencies or heavenly ones. And when I realized that that's what we're doing, like the to that's all it is back and forth. That was like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. And was like, you mean we're actually in heaven right now? We're actually in heaven right now. And I looked outside and I looked at my deck railing and it was sparkling like diamonds. And it was so extreme that I got my video camera and videotaped it. And you know how videos never turn out? It turned out. And my freaking deck railing was diamonds. And I was like, it is. We're really here in heaven. But these moments of pure purity where you can experience something like that are pretty hard to hold on to when you then come back in and live in the real life. But when you have the taste of them and you know that this is what's possible, you know that this is the goal of every day. This is what we can be living. But think, how many minutes in a day do you indulge in a low frequency thought? Do you accept something that's judgmental or critical about yourself, about the environment, about the world around you? We don't even notice. How many times do you watch TV and it's feeding you some story that you absolutely do not want to play out in your own life? But you don't realize you're intermingling with those energies of that situation, and you're inviting it into your life just by allowing it to be present in your life. And so we realize, oh, we do all these things to ourselves and we don't even know it. And it's just because we're not aware, because we're just living how we grew up, we watch TV, we do this, we don't even realize the extent that these little things have on us in our life. So for me, I after that happened, I would just start laughing out of nowhere. There was so much joy that was within me. I used to have to drink like excessive amounts of hot tea just to keep it under wraps so that I could like get through a day without just laughing my brains out all day long because everything was just so wonderful. And that lasted for several years. And it wasn't actually until I got into a relationship again, where then all these triggers came out, that kind of dwindled off. And now this is resurfacing, coming back because I've ended that thing and I see the lessons that was there. I see all the things, what had to come about and why that needed to be. But I would say it completely transformed my life. I went from a husband who was telling me to be less weird and less spiritual, like would actually tell me those things, to I'm not putting up with that. So he clearly didn't love me because that's all that I am, is like this spiritual being. That's what feeds me. That's what I'm passionate about. And it was like, I just am living a completely different life than I was before. And it's wonderful. And it's like, this is why I was here. I knew you guys knew when all that bad stuff was going on. I knew you knew, but it's like
Yeah.
everything changed. There's nothing that's the same.
Yeah, and that's true. And, it is all about the little things. And kind of talking about little things, I do have a question for you that, you can take it as personal as you want to or not. But growing up and everything in your life, what were the little moments like that you saw that were, bringing about this unfolding, and how did they occur, and what was it like growing up and, with this awareness, or did the awareness come later in life? And, were there things in your childhood now you look at and going, actually, it was in my childhood, but I didn't realize it was in my childhood until much later.
So when I was little, I would see things and hear things and whatnot when I was little, like, I'm not exactly sure what they were now, thinking back, but that was not supported in my household, right? I came from a very Christian household, so these things were evil. So I didn't have any assistance in helping me with that other than a mom that would just, pray for these things to go away and leave me alone. But had I had someone that could have like helped me and been like, oh hey, this is cool, there's nothing to be afraid of, I would have had a very different experience. However, growing up in the Christian church, um, it was, I really loved Jesus. And I was like about 4 years old, running around in the church basement. My one friend, she was my Sunday school teacher. She told me about this. We're about 20 years apart. And she said, I'm zipping around the basement. I remember this. Running over to her. She's pinning up things on the bulletin board. And I just sat there and I ran over, sat on her lap, and I said, people without Jesus really suffer. And then I just ran back away and kept running and doing my thing that I was doing. So even then, like I knew that there was something to it. And I would, when I was a little kid, I would pray for things that would happen. I didn't have any doubt. We'd stop the wind. Okay, this vehicle needs to start. It's not starting. Oh, of course it's going to start. It starts, and it would start. And so people thought I was pretty, special. Like my sisters would be like, "Well, just get her to pray for it." But I see why the things occurred like they did. It was because I had no doubt. I was told in church, where two or more of you come together and you pray, it'll happen. It was like, okay, well, there's three of us here. We need this thing to happen. You pray, I'll pray, it'll happen. And it would happen. So it was like, my viewpoint of how things and why things happened has drastically changed to know now I know why that happened. It's not because of specialness. It's because I was following the laws of the universe. I had full trust, so I was living in the truth, and I knew without a doubt that when you pray that this is the result of it. And so yeah, just my viewpoint, I guess, would have changed. But always very spiritual, even as a little kid, even with my friends. It's the only thing I like to talk about. It was like just whatever spiritual stuff ever since I was really little. I don't know if that answered your question. I don't remember the original
It,
question.
no, it answered it really well, actually. And so I'm kind of curious with your practice, if you ever came across scenarios with today's knowledge of, we hear terms like star seeds, hybrid, or, ETs. When you were doing your work and somebody would share an experience and you're like, yeah, I don't know what that is. I have no frame of reference.
Mhm.
Knowing what you know today, would you go, oh, you experienced, was that could have been an ET, or, oh, you're having this because you're more this.
I think I kind of knew. Like, I remember Starseed coming up right at the very beginning of my practice, and it was actually a download that I got. It was like, I'm a Starseed. I don't even know what that is, and then looked it up. But that was right at the start of my practice. And this is interesting. You'll think this is cool. I had a kid one time that I was working with who had had night terrors their whole life. And so I regressed them back, and they went back to an alien planet where these aliens were, attacking their planet and doing all this kind of stuff. So that was, and of course, I accept everything. Any story that came out was like, cool. So that's interesting. I wonder if we're gonna have more people like that. So there was nothing I really left out or nothing I didn't, accept or believe in, because I would just see interesting, neat, weird, unique things, happen, especially in my practice.
And I think I will speak for everyone that's a hybrid or star seed. Thank you for doing that because I feel like so many times we go to seek help for something and we're misdiagnosed, given drugs that will
Mhm.
suppress it. And it's like, yeah, we're not supposed to suppress who we are,
Yeah. Hmm.
but therap a lot of therapists don't go where we go, and so it's like, who do you go to?
Yeah.
Who how do you get help? Because most people are like, "Star seeds, that's made up."
Yeah.
And you're
Well,
like, "I am, but okay, thanks."
I would say, as far as like, if someone actually really wanted help, going to a spiritual hypnotherapist. That's what we're doing, is we're accessing the soul when you're going into theta state. You're getting rid of this conscious, but you're getting rid of all this. And so these people can really help you. And they all got their own flavor. I know so many different hypnotherapists that are like, spiritual practitioners, and they've got their own beliefs. And so they might, guide you in this way or do this or that. But yeah, I would say if somebody wants help in that regard, that's the way to do it. Because you're gonna get also not just help, but excess information. They're gonna be able to guide you to a place where you're gonna be able to get the information that you need, which it's better to be able to do the work on yourself, eventually, if, you don't need to seek the outside help all the time. I mean, there's billions of us here because we're supposed to help each other. But if they can help us to teach us so that we don't need them all the time, then that's the way.
Well, and I also a lot of times will say, when like the ancient Greeks came about with, creating physicians to help heal people, today's modern medicine, in my opinion, has lost the first law or the first rule of medicine. And a lot of people don't realize this, but if you go and read medicine from, the ancient Greeks texts, one of the first, if not the first rule of a physician is physician heal thyself.
Hmm.
Because if you can't heal yourself, you can't heal someone else.
Hmm.
And so it was their way of saying, yeah, as the doctor, you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of everybody else.
Hmm.
But somewhere over time, it became, oh no, I got to take care of these people and I got to take care of this because I got to pay for this, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I need all of this to do that. So I need more patience. And so we're going to do this. And it's like, where are you in this equation? It's like, yeah, I'm what's left. And it's
Yeah,
like, whoa, that's you went completely 180 of where you're supposed to be.
yeah. And even just treating the whole person. When you go to a doctor and they're writing a prescription, that's not for your soul. That's not some spiritual anything, but that's part of who we are, and we need that element. Anytime that there's anything that's missing, there's an imbalance that's there.
Yeah. And so, disclaimer for everybody, we're not saying stop going to doctors or anything. We're just saying there's
Maybe look
options
more.
to seek other, you can do in tandem other
Yeah.
work too. And so
Hmm.
there's more options than just one, in other words. So
Yeah, there's
figure
more.
out what works for you. And while we're talking about, you mentioned, being able to do it in your own space and everything. one thing that I hear a lot, but I think people misinterpret again, is the term sacred space. They think, "Oh, that means a church, or it means holy ground, like cemetery, a sacred space." So if I'm gonna, do this work, and they say you gotta be in sacred space, I have to go to a church, or I have to go to a cemetery, or,
Mhm,
specific spots where they say, "Yes, the ground is sacred here."
mhm,
To me, that's not what's being said.
mhm,
But I think it's because people get hung up on the word sacred. And so how do you in your practice and in your life, when you say to people, we're gonna go, sacred space, or we're gonna create sacred space, how do you handle relaying that to where people understand what you truly mean and not get hung up in the verbiage and lose people along the
mhm.
journey?
I would think just an intentional space. So it could be right here in this room. And I would probably take my sound bowl and we'd probably sit down and kind of meditate and I would just let the sound go and now that's it. The container's open. This is our sacred space. It's wherever we are. It could be on an airplane. It's wherever you go. But it's really the intent. I would say even setting the sacred container energetically. It could be any room that you have, any place, any space, anywhere, anytime. But no, this is my sacred space for this moment. This is the energy field that I'm setting up. Only highest divine alignment frequencies are allowed to come through here in this space, and all else is just not present. So you can set it anywhere that you want.
I agree, and I just, I think that's something that I think people need to be aware of, is as people, talk about energies and certain terms, there isn't like in the old system where they had special meanings and there was special needs that had to be or criteria for that to be met. In the
Hmm.
new system, it is what it is. It's like, and I being a paranormal investigator, I kind of joke about this, but I'm being serious at the same time is because I have a reverend's license because of doing Reiki work. I, needed to protect myself with operating on the earth realm. But on investigations, a lot of people would, I would hear them saying, "Oh my God, we forgot our holy water. We need to go get holy water." And I would go and I would say, "Well, I am a reverend, so hand me your water bottle." And I would sit there and I would just focus energy into the water. And
Hmm.
like a minute later, go, "Here's your holy water." And they go, "Are you sure?" I said, "Well, I am a reverend. I did 2.5 years of study. And, I didn't do the 5-minute internet version. So, take it for that. But yeah, and they would drink it or they would splash it on, where they thought they had something going on and be like, "Oh, I do feel better."
Yeah. Hmm.
And when I say, I would joke about it is I would just go, like, to me, the joke was just hand me the water bottle. I'll make you holy water here on the spot. It's like the
Hmm.
funniness of it because everybody has in their mind, oh, holy water, has to go through this process through, and it's got to come from this source and all these criteria.
Yeah.
And it's
Hmm.
like, it can, or, you can just open a water bottle
Yeah.
and boom, there you go.
And the result, the only thing is the belief that's in it. Because even if they had holy water that was given to them from the Pope. It's what they believe that they got and what power that they believe that that has. And it's all about that. It is all about that. It's not the actual, it doesn't matter. The stuff doesn't matter. The incense
Yeah.
doesn't matter. The position of your body doesn't matter. The way that you meditate doesn't matter. None of it matters. None of that matters. But we give importance to it. And so then we make it matter. And so then well, no, this does matter because we've given it so much belief that that's how it's playing out in your life, but it actually doesn't. None of those things matter. So,
Right.
and I mean, why is your holy water so effective? Because you know what it does. So, what intent are you putting in there that this is going to do what it needs to do? So then it does what it needs to do. It's all the intent.
Well, and yeah, and I did have somebody ask me one time, and it was much later. They go, I heard, through the grapevine that you've created holy water on the spot, and it's like, yeah. And they go, how do you do it? I go, well, I know Reiki, and so I just energy infuse the water, and that's really all it is. And they're like, what do you mean energy infuse the water? I said, I just focus energy into the water. Boom, it becomes something more than just water.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, don't you, as a paranormal investigator, when it rains, you have more activity because the water is giving them more energy to be conducive for them. It's like a conductor for them. And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, I'm holding a water bottle. Do you not? It's like, why is your mind like okay with water making spirits more present, but putting energy in water you struggle with? I'm like, wait, how is there this disconnect? It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah. People just understand what they understand. and they
Yeah.
and they don't know, and they think that it's very specific words that you needed to use, or that there was some type of ritual. They just don't understand till they've done it themselves. They don't really get it, right? Even when you say you're running energy into that, well, what exactly does that mean? Well, I don't know. You'll figure it out someday. When you know, you know.
And talking about energy, and just being aware and open to it. My mom, I don't know how she found this one day, but she found the Lord's Prayer, but written in Aramaic.
I just read that 2 days ago. What are the chances? Man, it's
And
beautiful, isn't it?
and I was in like, I found this like 20 years ago, but when she handed it to me, and she just handed it to me and goes, what is this? And I started reading it, and she goes, you can read that? And I go, well, yeah. And she goes, how are you able to read that? I go, it's words on paper. I
Hmm.
didn't know it was Aramaic. I just was handed the sheet, and she didn't tell me what was, language it was. I just read the language, and I had that ability. Like, I could, certain words in French. If you hand me something, I can read some of the words in French or in Spanish, different languages I can read. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's like I know how to pronounce these words, or I'm really close to how to pronounce them, never hearing them. But yeah, she was shocked, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, and I remember saying to her when I was done reading it, I was like, this is kind of an energy language. What is this? And she goes, that was the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. And I was like, what? And then we found later that they had the translation next to it in English, and I was like, I actually like the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic better than
Mhm.
the church's version.
And it's translated like the one I read the other day was saying, our Father in heaven. Well, no, it's saying like basically the breath of the universe. It's talking about breath as
Yeah.
life and whatnot. And it's like it is. That was a download I got in a ceremony like a few days ago. Was like, this is what makes us human, boys, because we get to breathe here and we don't get to do that anywhere else. That's why it's called the breath of life, because it's what makes us human. And the Lord's Prayer is talking about that. The breath that's in the things, it's freaking beautiful and
Yeah.
not anything like, the version that we're so familiar with.
And what I found interesting is a lot of the words kind of were like, as I was saying them, I kind of felt like I was almost, I would have said, if it wasn't Aramaic, I would have been like, it's an indigenous tribe because they put a lot
Mhm.
of that breath and everything and energy into the words. And that's how it was read to me. And
Mhm.
now I hear, a lot of people talking about like light language.
Yes.
And I can't help, when I hear it sometimes going, is Aramaic light language?
Mm. Yeah, sometimes I hear light language and I'm just hearing the English behind it, like it's just real time translating what it is that they're actually saying,
Yeah.
you know. I think that's, the divine language. I'll use that sometimes too, especially if I'm in ceremony and I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to say it. It'll just come through and it'll say it for me, whatever needs to be done, I guess.
Right. And I love those moments when you're like, everyone's telling you, you got to do this by, the book, so to speak. You got to do it verbatim. And you're like, crap. And you mess something up. And when you're done, they come up to you and they're like, oh, wow, the way you delivered that was like perfect.
Like you don't
And
say.
I was like, well, I missed this part. And they go, we know, but we're the only ones that would know. But the way you covered it up and the way you like just went with it,
Mhm.
yeah, nobody would know you missed a sentence or you missed a word. And it was like, well, thank you. And I'm glad. But then another part of me is like, dodged a bullet there.
Well, I gotta say this because this has come through a couple times since we've been on here. Sometimes, like somebody must be listening to this right now, and they feel like they're being put on standby and they need to stop it. The message to whoever this is that is listening to this, if they're allowing themselves to be put on standby or something like that, it's stop it. But this is like the fourth or fifth time that this has come to me. So someone's listening to this that needs to hear the message of don't let that happen. Stop it. Mhm. Um, and I know, I see energy too. And so then they just keep showing me something in your face. And so because they keep showing me, I feel like I need to like address it or say what it is. Do you want me to do that for you? I mean, this
Oh,
will be
go
fun.
ahead.
It
I,
might be
I I
personal.
I pretty much leave an open book unless it's like something super personal, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
off air,
they
but
wouldn't bring that up on air, I'm guessing. Okay, so this is so it's like this orange type circle here. What is this about? This is about full completions. So, okay, so then they're showing me like the center. So you've had many completions of things in your life, things coming full circle, and it's kind of showing, like the different ones, and that so this is a big one that is happening here, and they're just saying that this is pivotal. Within 3 to 7 days, maybe you're already experiencing something, but 3 to 7 days, something huge, giant, pivotal is going to be shifting like in your inner world. And it's going to be big, giant, really, really, really great. Anything else? Okay. And then also, then there's just like this pillar of light that comes out of your house. This is about connecting to source. This is also about, so like I'm almost seeing like source kind of gather things around on the outside of you. This feels like maybe these are people, but they've been kind of sitting on the outskirts, waiting to really get pulled into your world. And I'm seeing like this magnet kind of like heating up and like charging inside of you. And so this magnetic pull of several, maybe it's a collaboration, but it's like there's like 11 people, maybe not including you, 11, 12 people, just that you're going to be bringing these people into your world here. And that this is a really pivotal time in the evolution of our planet, um, but that these collaborations that you're going to be making, that are going to be like magnetized to you, are going to be really pivotal in doing some like really great big work here in the world. Um, that's all they wanted to tell. We can do a more in-depth one when it's just me and you, but they wanted to say that. So
Oh no, I appreciate it because it's got me curious. I think I know a couple of the things, but there's a couple that I'm like, oh, I don't know. I gotta watch and see what unfolds now.
yep. Mm-hmm.
But
You'll see.
and that's the fun of life, and
Mhm.
I, and talk about observations. I just had a really interesting observation pop in my head of, and you'll get this reference, is when we were growing up, we would hear a lot of times the phrase meaning of life. What is the meaning of life?
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, I heard that so many times growing up. Like, what's the meaning of life? Since I've been an adult, I would say in the past like decade, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it anymore. It's like that
Mhm.
phrase has kind of disappeared.
Good point. Yeah. Interesting. Huh. What do you think the meaning of life is?
To me, I determined when I was 25 and being precocious, thinking I knew it all. Meaning of life was being able to wake up each day, be filled with happiness, joy, love, bliss, and go to sleep knowing you had a perfect day, and that no matter what the flaws of that day were, it was nothing that couldn't be undone. So, like, if one of the flaws was you got in an argument with someone, you can fix it the next day. It's not a big deal.
Mhm.
Nothing, no, like, major, like, I didn't kill anybody, so it's not like I, gotta resurrect someone to fix something. So I was like, that was the perfect day. And that to me was the meaning of life, was to live each day to its fullest with happiness and joy no matter what came your way, knowing you can overcome and everything will be all right in the end, and just going with the flow and being in the moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I think too, it's Christ, Muhammad, all these, enlightened masters, all that they did was emit life-giving frequency. That's all it is. You have an interaction with someone. Do you feel more uplifted or do you feel worse? If you walk away feeling worse, something happened that shouldn't be happening there. And it's like we don't want to do that to anyone.
Yeah.
So, just interacting with people and just feeding them with life with your thoughts as they're driving down the street. There's a lot of homeless people around here. What do I do? Do I go, oh, I feel bad for them, oh, whatever. Of course, I'm going to give them money. Of course, I'm going to help them, but I'm not going to send them out some low frequency. I'm going to see them in their fullest, most beautiful divine expression and send them this love, send them this life, real life frequencies. If we can just do that, I think that's what it's about. Give everybody more life,
And,
you know?
and it's interesting as you were talking about what you saw in me. That painting behind you, I have looked at like probably 6 times throughout the show, and every time I look at it, it's like I have to do a double take because your wall looks like it matches the pathway, and so I'm like, that's a really cool window, but that's a weird place to put a window, and but there's nothing moving outside, and so that is a strange window. And then it's like, that's not a window, that's a painting.
Yeah.
Never mind.
hmm
But
Yeah,
it like
of course.
perfectly matches, and it looks like it's, to me it's like my eyes would go, that's a window. That
Yeah.
path is like, and I'm like, wait, no, it's not leading up to her wall. No. This is
Yep. Beach is a couple blocks that way. If only.
but did you plan on having it match so perfectly, or was that just a synchronistic happening?
Synchronistic. Yep, it's a rental. I was like, where am I going? This is the best lighting. This is the couch. This is where it's happening. Yep. Not my office. Worked out.
No, so we're getting close to time, and so if people wanted to get in touch with you or ask you questions or work with you in any way, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So the Real Healing Institute.com is my website. On all social media, you can find me under the Real Healing Institute. So that's on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all the Instagram, all the places. The Real Healing Institute. They can find me there. My website will have a contact phone number and email that you can get a hold of me through there. Um,
Did I spell it right?
the the it just needs the word the at the
Oh,
start. The Real Healing Institute. But yes, yep, that.
I,
hmm
I didn't realize the was a part of it.
was real.
I
Yeah.
was like, because
La
a lot of times we'll say,
Real
yeah,
Healing Institute.
the website is the blank, and it's like the blank is, and so it's like, oh, this actually has the word the in it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, they're on really on everywhere. And then I also have a network called medicinegarden.tv. This is where I host docu-series and symposiums. These are mostly plant medicine, spiritual based docu-series and things like that as well. So medicinegarden.tv as well. And of course, we didn't mention, I did write a book. I channeled a book several years ago in 2018 called The Way to Peace. And that's available on Amazon. This is just purely a channeled message from the divine. And it's a short, good, beautiful, inspiring read. And it's really cheap on Amazon.
Uh, that's cool. And so, what made you want to write the book, real quick, if you
I
don't
was
mind
told
sharing?
I was sitting up at my cabin. This was also where my enlightenment had come through like several years after I had written this book. But I was sitting out there on the dock. My kids are out in the boat and I'm just meditating. And I was told you have to write a book for me. And I was like, I do. Like, how am I going to do that? And he was like, well, just meditate and I'll give you the words and you just come to me and whenever you want, you write and I'll give you the words. And I was like, okay. So then I didn't start for probably like a month or more. And then was like, okay, I'm being told I should do a thing. I better do it. So then I would sit there and I would write and I would maybe do like 5 minutes, write it down, close up my book. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Then I'd been doing this for a while and was like, oh, I should probably read this, see if it makes any sense. Cause I would just open up and start from where I had left off before, but not pre-reading it. And it was like, not only does it make any sense, but this is all new information to me. And okay, so I was just told to do it, so I did it. And I've been told I'll write more books eventually. I don't get the time to do anything like this now, but I was told that I'll write more in the future that'll kind of, hop on to that previous one that I had written in 2018. But
And
yeah,
you said your book is The Way to Peace.
yes, by Michelle Sinclair. It's on Amazon.
So, fun fact for you, that is on the thumbnail for this episode.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yep.
So, we did end up promoting your book.
Yeah. Yep, right on the thumbnail.
So, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for coming on and taking the time and
Mhm.
sharing your experiences with us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yes, and for some reason, I'm hearing, and I don't know where this is coming from, because I'm like, this is normally like what I do when I finish a channeling session that I do, but they're like, no, you should ask this. And it's the age old question of, is there anything or any message that you feel like you didn't deliver that you want to make sure you deliver and get out to everybody?
Uh, Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Doesn't matter what it is. Think about whatever the thing is that you haven't forgiven yourself. And when you think about it, where it resonates, where it sits in your body, how low frequency, how horrible it is, how makes you just want to throw up and feel sick, it's because it's not supposed to be there. And your soul is perfect and pure. And it just came here to learn all these lessons and do all these things without any guilt, without holding on to shame, and without holding on to this stuff because that is useless. So forgive yourself.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. And it kind of correlates with, in a way, of what I say to people is we're just having human experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're all beautiful and they all teach us something. And if we look and we learn the lessons from it rather than hold on to like some low vibe something from it, then we're set. Then we're set.
Yes. And so to end this, I actually do have a special message for you, Michelle.
Ooh, awesome.
And that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity. It's felt, seen, heard, appreciated, and most importantly, thank you for being your authentic self.
Mhm. Thanks, Michael. Thank you. Thank you for being you and getting these messages out there and having your platform and sharing and doing what you do and just being a bright, beautiful soul in this world because you really are.
Well, thank you. I do my best, and I do have my moments where it's like, yeah, is it so bright? Yeah, it's still bright. I can make it bright, and I'll
Yeah.
fix it later, but I can still be bright.
Yeah. It's like a battery. Just think about it, charge it up. Just even thinking about it, you can charge it up. And it
Yeah.
makes you feel better, makes it feel lighter, makes it like gives you more energy. It's like, oh, yeah, I have more energy now just thinking about it.
And it's funny you say that because I was at the gym today and a guy was waiting for me to finish doing something. And he goes, "Oh, don't worry, I'm just resting and recharging." And I said, "Oh, that's the new R&R. Instead of rest and relaxation, now it's rest and recharge."
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's good. Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This is
Yes, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
And so everyone, be sure to follow along because you never know when Michelle may be making another appearance on the shows, and she is welcome anytime.
Thank you. Awesome.
And check out her website and check out her stuff because and her book because yeah, I have a feeling you all are going to be blown away by what's there. Because just in talking, I'm like I'm blown away by a lot of the stuff. So definitely go check it out. And with that being said, have a wonderful afternoon, rest of the week. And for everyone who's in the United States, have a happy 4th of July weekend.
Happy 4th.
And with that, we're going to say goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having me.